Hey, what's going on, guys? Dino Gomez here, and welcome to another episode of the Figure SEO Podcast, where we sit down and interview top SEO experts from around the world and figure out exactly how it is they are crushing online search. Now, today we have another SEO celebrity with us. Today we are sitting down to interview Jonathan Kiekbusch from PBN Butler. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, we're excited to sit down and chat SEO and everything entrepreneurial with you today. And if you don't mind me asking, the call you're calling in from India right now.
Yes, sir. I'm in the beautiful Union Territory of Pondicherry in the southeast of India, a very small town with just 1 million inhabitants.
So amazing. It's just awesome that we can be chatting like this across the world. But well, very cool. Thanks so much for sitting down with us today, Jonathan. We're excited to learn more about you and your SEO business. And like we do on every episode of the Figure SEO Podcast, we like to kind of learn first the background story. So if you don't mind, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing SEO, and then really that transition that got you into SEO and internet marketing from perhaps a previous job you may have had.
Sure. So, initially I started off my career as a very successful high school dropout and didn't have many options other than to join the military in Germany or to essentially dedicate a year of my life to doing something charitable, or alternatively to leave the country and do something else with my life, right? And at that point, I made the decision that I was not going to, I knew deep down that I didn't want to make a career in the military. And so for me, it was the decision between sort of leaving or dedicating a year of my life to something that other people are going to have to pay for, that the taxpayer essentially is going to have to pay for, that is of no real benefit to the country of Germany, or really to me, other than obviously learning some life skills at basic training. So I decided to leave, and of all the places, I decided to come to India. And when I came to India, I worked for a couple of companies. Right in the beginning, I actually learned Flash development and worked for a non-profit organization here that was developing videos, animated videos that were translated into something like 40 languages to be able to teach people their own language and how to read and write it. So after short amount of time, I realized that company was very much not just a non-profit, but was also funding the owner's beautiful beach house in California. So I very quickly left that business and was looking for another opportunity. And having sort of gotten the bug of doing something online and really wanting to do some business development for people, I found a company that was in a city called Bangalore that wanted somebody who spoke German and English and could help develop the DACH market, the Germany, Austria, Switzerland market. So I joined them on a very, very low salary and literally just enough to sort of get by over there, and started doing sales on commission, and did really well as an account executive for them. And then within the years of being with them, I became their sales director for Europe, and that was really cool. And I really enjoyed that until late 2008, when there were some attacks in India that sort of shook me a little bit, because one of these bomb blasts was very close to our office, and it sort of was like a moment of realization, saying like, what am I really doing here? I'm not making a huge amount of money. Yes, I'm getting some great experience, but that's about it. And now I've got this risk to my life potentially added to it. So I asked for double my pay, or I was going to leave. And I got the answer I was sort of secretly hoping for, which was no, and I left. And I went home and I stayed at my mom's house, and that was in Germany in the middle of nowhere with a village of 2,000 inhabitants. And, I'm this kid who's just been out in the big world and has had all the opportunity to do whatever he likes, to go home to mom and to be asked when I'm coming back home after going out, and then, where I'm going. So I started doing a lot of stuff online at that point, and putting my name out there, and just reputation stuff, trying to connect with decision makers and businesses, and doing that sort of thing. And after about 3 months, I believe, a company, an American Indian company, headhunted me and said, "Hey, listen, we're desperately looking for somebody who can speak German, speak English, who is happy to live in the UK, and who can sell our usability product and deal with the Indian back office." I said, "Well, you really have found me, because I'm that guy." And so after a very quick breakfast meeting in Amsterdam, I said, "Yeah, sure, let's join." And within a month, I moved all my stuff over to England, and moved to a small seaside town called Brighton, which is just an hour's drive into the center of London, and you could just use a train, and started working for that company. And after about 6 months of working for that company as an account executive, their director of sales quit, and I was really unhappy, because as an account executive, I had no decisions to make. I was just literally, just sending off proposals by the book. I wasn't traveling. And so I called in a meeting with the managing director for Europe. And I said, "Hey, listen, this guy has quit, and he's great. He's a veteran of our industry, but now you need a replacement. And if you hire anybody with his kind of experience, you're going to be paying like at least 6 figures in pounds. Why don't you hire me? I'm way more eager. Put me on a commission and pay me half what you would have paid him, which is still double of what I earned, And
smart man.
And to my surprise, he said, "Yeah." And so I started working as a director, and it's probably learned the most that I've ever learned about business in that time, because I was reporting directly to the CEO of the company internationally, as well as the managing director for Europe. And I got to travel to some amazing businesses and work, with companies like Barclays and Deutsche Bank and Boeing, etc. And that was really amazing, because, I'm this guy who had just come from India, who was doing like $500 websites for people, right? And now I'm signing off on like £100,000 contracts. So after about a year of being the director for them, the American bubble had finally caught up with us, and the company was hemorrhaging money. And so they gave me a very generous redundancy package and sent me on my way. And, so I literally sat in my house in Brighton, England, and didn't have to work, and didn't know what to do with my time and my money and my thoughts. And so I got on my computer and started looking for opportunities. And that's when I came across across a small website at the time called Five Squids, which is the UK version now of Fiverr. And the site had just been created, and people were adding really creative jobs on there, just amazing jobs that they were willing to do for people, because it was a brand new platform. You could do anything. So I stewed for about 2 weeks without taking any action, and just thought to myself, I have to put something on here that is crass enough to really make me stand out. And being in a very, very strange relationship at the time, I came up with the idea, what the people need? The people need somebody they can hire for £5 that will break up with their significant other on their behalf. So I posted, right? I just went on there like you do now on Fiverr, and I said, "Hey, I'll do this for you." And I got a little image that I stole off Google that had a heart with a line through it, and nothing happened. So I sit there and I'm starting to do other things. I got some qualifications in being a physical security professional, doing things like close protection and supervising and managing event security, which, following events like 9/11 and the 2007 bombings in London, etc., has taken a huge impact, and there's a lot of money in it. Until one day, somebody orders this gig. And so now I'm sat there and I'm staring at my computer, and I think to myself, what am I going to do with this? I have to do it, right? It's my idea and I'm going to follow through with it. I'm the kind of guy that has to do this. So I go out and I literally get myself a burner phone. I literally buy a cheap phone and a pay-as-you-go SIM card because I don't want it to come back to me. And I sit down and I contact the guy. I contacted the girl because the guy got in touch, and the most amazing thing happened. She was completely fine with it. And she was like, this is amazing. I was actually told why someone's breaking up with me, and I understand now. And I feel like this is not a dirty breakup as it could have been. And so from that moment onwards, I start posting in forums about it, and I do all these things. And I met a great guy called Luke Sazewski, who's now my business partner in this business, and we just promote it, and we come up with a few other ways of marketing it on all sorts of crazy forums and generating backlinks and all of this. And then a little while later, a PR agency was hired by that website, and they chose my gig to be one of the gigs that they wanted to promote. Okay, that's cool. So, they call me up and they say, hey, we'll pay you this much if you're willing to give an interview to the Sun newspaper. And I'm thinking, hey, this is a great return on investment. I just created a gig and now I'm being paid to be publicized. This is great. So the Sun does a short interview with me, asks them about, my ambitions about it, and if I think it's ethical and if it's crazy and all of these things. And, I at the end of the day, I'm a sales guy, right? So I do what I do to them, and I just sell it. So a couple of days go by, and I get a phone call in the evening of, I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday, and they tell me that next day my story is going to be in the paper. And this entire time I am convinced that the story is going to be this tiny little blurb on the side of the women's section there. For those of you that don't know what the Sun newspaper is, or the Daily Mail, they are very, very much hype news, Justin Bieber, the Kardashians kind of newspapers.
The Onion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like very similar to that. Yeah. So I go to my corner shop the next morning, the one that I go to probably every single day that I'm in Brighton, and where you buy your milk when you're out. And the guys know me very well there. And I get this newspaper and I put it on the counter, and I think, hey, I'm going to flick through this real quick and see what all this is about. And so I get to the center and I see that they've decided to make it a double page spread with my face in the real size. And it said something along the lines of, the last man you ever want to hear from. And I thought to myself, oh dear Lord. So I buy a couple of these newspapers and I go home and I sort of sit there and I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. And come 9 o'clock and the office is open in London, and the phone wouldn't stop ringing. And, the story went sort of semi-viral for a couple of days, with it going in all the local newspapers, all the national newspapers. I did a TV interview on the UK's main breakfast show. I did a segment with the what is it called, Sunrise FM in Australia. I was featured on Playboy FM in the States. That was exciting. And all sorts of things like that, right? And so Luke and I are sitting there, we're thinking, wait a minute, we need to do something now. We need to use this wave to create a business. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, we'll do the same thing again. We'll create a small website marketing kind of business. We'll get some local clients and we'll market them. And, Luke's background is massively in affiliate marketing, and my background is in sales. Now, the problem was that I think that, Luke was making too much money off affiliate marketing, and I was too dedicated to my physical security business. So we were sort of just running that business very casually, and, taking a phone call here or there, placing an ad here or there. until a year after the conception of that business, we sunk it like the Titanic. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean, it was just a great failure. I really thrive from those kind of moments, because it's the moment where you have to sit down and look at everything that you've done and sort of reconsider. And the good thing was, though, that because Luke and I are both extremely frugal, we hadn't invested a lot of money into it, right? Like everything that we could do, we'd do ourselves at that time. And so obviously we didn't see any returns, because there's only so many hours in the day, as we all know. And especially when you have a full-time job, it's very difficult to balance that, especially when your full-time job involves running after a Saudi prince for 18 hours in the center of London.
So actually, this stems, if you don't mind, a couple questions right off the bat.
Go for it.
So yeah, you started off. You said it was either a high school or college dropout in Germany, and you moved over to India, and kind of got your feet wet with a couple different account managerial and sales positions. So for somebody starting or looking to start their own online internet marketing or SEO business, do you think, I mean, it's interesting because you didn't have a formal education and so forth. And I think that kind of ties in a lot to this online marketing, is that it's a practical skill set. Whereas, you see a lot of people that they go to college, they go $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in debt, and they don't actually have a practical skill set that they can apply in actually running a business or starting a business. Do you think, kind of skipping over college and so forth, getting your feet wet actually in a real job at a real company, do you think that ended up helping you to get to where you are today?
Well, my girlfriend is going to hate me for saying this, considering that she went for the full 9 yards, has got the master's degree and everything. Oh, that's great. But I am a firm believer that in this industry, you need experience, and the experience you can only get. Are you getting this beautifully?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was hoping we'd have some hymns in the background. We know you're out there in India. So.
Yeah, we should have done this interview like 2 days ago when we had the temple festival right outside our door. That would have been a great. So no, the thing is, at the end of the day, I think that there are a lot of industries that you need to absolutely study. I mean, like, I would not want to be treated by a nurse that has not gone through nursing school, right? But at the same time, if you're going to go to university and spend 4 years of your time there or longer trying to learn online marketing, by the time that you're done, all the methods are outdated. You've just absolutely wasted 4 years of your life and X amount of dollars. So, I think that if you're starting out and you don't know where to start, and you really are at a loss, and you don't want to go through the hard way of researching and testing and research some more, then get an internship. It doesn't matter how old you are. Approach some big businesses that are doing well in your industry and take an internship. They'll pay you a little bit, the hours will be flexible, and you will be getting paid to learn everything that you can then apply to turn into your own business, right? And I think that for the people that don't have the opportunity to just hit the ground and start running by just joining a business and sort of blagging their way through by saying, yeah, I know this stuff, it's fine. That is probably one of the best opportunities. The other one is obviously the harder way, which is to read up and learn and test out different methods and just stick with it. But the problem with that is that a lot of people get very disillusioned very quickly when their first few projects don't reap any results or don't reap the results they were hoping for. Because, you've seen it and I've seen it, and probably most of the people that are listening to this have seen this happen, is the fact that when you buy a product or a course, it always says, use this method to make $3,000 a week like the owner, right? Like the creator of this guide. And that's fantastic. But, let's say video marketing, you're not going to just create a video and rank it, and that one video is going to make you $3,000 a week, unless you're in an amazing niche, right? Like, I mean, if you can rank a really highly converting pharmaceutical or binary options or insurance video, then sure, that's fine, because you don't need many conversions to make that kind of money. But let's be realistic. The majority of people are monetizing it through Amazon, monetizing it through the YouTube monetization methods, or pay per download, or content locking, like they give a small teaser in the video and then try and get people over, and then they content lock. So that works great for like the gaming niches and stuff. I think that the disillusion that a lot of people get is when they've done it and their video ranks, and then it turns out that they've only made 50 cents in that week. Well, that's amazing. The fact that you've done your first video and you've made 50 cents means that in some way your method is working, right? Now you just need to figure out how to scale it and how to repeat it with minimum effort.
Right. And that's spot on. I remember my first year of doing SEO was profitable, but barely enough to keep the lights on and so forth. But that's kind of the mentality I had to have, was it was profitable, so I'm doing something right. Just need some mentorship or to learn something new, or to learn really how to scale it. And so actually your comment there ties really, really nicely into something I kind of wanted to ask you about here. So you got a bunch of PR from being the guy who helps couples break up, and some cool TV interview spots and radio interviews, and you and your business partner started a web design firm that you said about a year later kind of crashes like the Titanic, didn't necessarily work out. So what was your next move? And really, when did the transition into SEO happen? And how did you, when you're learning SEO, since there's really no courses in universities, and kind of like we discussed, it wouldn't make sense to study it in a university since the strategies update so quickly. How did you get your experience? And really, where was the first money made for you when you got officially into SEO?
That's a great question. After we sank that first ship, I was quite burnt out, and it was one of those moments where I was just like so many other people, and I was just sick of it. And I was like, why am I spending so much of my time on this when it's not making any money? And on the other hand, I had a security business where, as a consultant, you could make $500 a day by doing these things, by doing surveillance on people or running around looking after people and that sort of stuff. But the problem with that was that you have zero control over your life, right? Because you're literally living someone else's life. If you're Justin Bieber's bodyguard, you are where Justin Bieber wants to be, and the same thing for business people that you're looking after. So I continued to do that and started to get really frustrated at it, like really frustrated. And every now and then, Luke and I would start something, because Luke was still doing full-time online marketing. Really, he was running his affiliate offers and ranking tons of YouTube videos and doing PPD and content locking and the whole lot of it. And to me, most of that was rocket science, right? Because I just knew how to sell stuff. So every now and then we'd get together and we'd start working on something. Like we'd say, hey, there's a great niche there. Let's make some YouTube videos for it, and Luke will rank it. I'll do the voiceovers, and it'll be great. So we did that, and we started to see some stuff happening. And then sometime later, we started getting a few clients to start doing this for, right? So just by sort of joining communities like the proper PBN group, local client takeover, all of these groups, and just talking about what we're doing, we started seeing the needs of the people. And then we start realizing that, wait a minute, rather than just doing this for ourselves, it would make a lot of sense to institutionalize this and start offering it as a service. And the first service that we did this with was content, right? So we needed content for our YouTube videos and for our parasites and for all these other projects. And iWriter is not very great and very time consuming. And hiring VAs takes so much time and testing and whatnot. And so we got really frustrated, right? And Then we went into these groups looking for answers, and then we realized everybody else was really frustrated at it as well. So our first move was, let's hire people in the Philippines, because the Philippines are the call center capital of Asia, meaning that they have probably the highest literacy rate and some of the best English skills. And we started hiring them, and we very quickly realized that the content quality to be used for parasites, for PBNs, for that kind of stuff, was just not good enough. It was on par with the stuff that you could get from iWriter, etc., but it was just not what we needed, right? So we sat down, we said, okay, what can we do to eradicate this issue? And then we had that golden light bulb moment where we said, okay, we'll get the Filipinos to write the content, and then we'll send it to America and get college students to proofread it. Bing! The college student takes like 15 minutes to read over the content and just make some basic adjustments, like, oh, here's a really terrible sentence, or there's a word that's misspelled, right? So we started doing this for ourselves, and we realized that the content quality went up so much. And then we started offering it. And when I say offering it, we literally created a very basic website that just had an order form on it that said, order your articles here, these are great, and then added that to all the Facebook groups. And I think it was within like a week that we had over 100 orders. And we're like, okay, now we have a problem. A great problem, but we have we now need to we really need to make a system out of this. And the problem was as well that our margins were extremely low, and still are, because our concept was, we don't, in this particular product, we don't want to deal with the end customer. We want to deal with the wholesaler, right? If you're a marketer and you have 50 clients that are causing you a massive headache because you need 500 articles a month, then I want to talk to you because you're one person that's ordering on behalf of 50 people. And that's where sort of my business side of things came into play. Well, Luke was doing a lot of the technical side, being a developer, knowing SEO a lot better than I did. So a couple of weeks go by and we somehow scrape by doing these deliveries. And from day one, it was our motto that the customer's the king. If somebody ordered 10 articles and we were going to be late on them, I would sit down myself and write 10 $4 articles myself to make sure that the customer gets them on time, right? And so that really propelled us into the stratosphere with what then turned into PBN Butler a little bit later, because what we realized very quickly was that the majority of orders came through for content for PBNs. Obviously, the content can be used for anything because it's uniquely written content, and you can use it on just about anything. I wouldn't suggest to use it on a money site because it's SEO content. It's not money site content, right? And then we started looking into other products, and we started adding them. We started adding citations and social signals and PBN builds, and within about 6 months, I think we had about 8 staff in the Philippines working full time for us that were on a basic, relatively low wage, but then were incentivized based on the amount of articles they were generating, so that basically we would feel very ethical about it because they have enough money to live, but if their output is great, they can make a above average salary. And then we hired some ladies in the US who were managing the proofreading for us, because very quickly it really got out of hand, and we were doing like 1,200 articles a month. Which is a lot of sort of systemizing and managing so that every person gets the right article, the right keyword is in the right article, and all of these things. And so we got the girls in the States, which very quickly grew to like a team of 4 people who, again, we did the same thing for. We just offered them a decent rate that would help them make some money without having to go and take up a job. And actually, the girl that runs that project for us in the States is in college. And when she started, she was waiting tables as well as going to university, whereas now she just works with us and goes to university and has dropped a class off her syllabus because she's too busy making money.
Awesome.
right?
Awesome. Right.
So that's literally the most rewarding thing that you can get, is that the person that is helping you create a product that's making you money being more grateful than you are. It's just amazing.
And
so we
if I could jump in, a couple of questions from that right there. So, well, the first one, I thought it was interesting. You said hiring, college students at a university and so forth to help you with your team. And have you found that they are reliable and, and so forth? I mean, I think of a college student, at least here in the States, and I just think of them, I remember when I was in college, I don't think I would have been on top of this. I feel like I was missing papers and stuff left and right. But that seems to have worked out for you, or it seems like it's going really well. And then the other thing
it was really a learning curve. Sorry.
The other thing too is the systemization of something like that. A lot of SEOs would love to offer a service and stuff, and as long as it's not your proprietary information and you feel comfortable explaining some of that, how do you systemize something where you're passing that amount of digital content, 1,200 articles, back and forth, and if people are asking for rewrites, there's a lot of, did you guys build out an online dashboard where customers could log in to get their content, and do you have any advice on that strategy?
Well, when we started off with it, it was literally a site, a WordPress site that had no real backend. I mean, it was like some $10 plugin that would accept PayPal payments, right? And that was great, but it also became really unoverseeable. So what we've done is it sounds really complicated, but it's actually the simplest way that we could do it. We actually use Excel for the tracking of the orders on the back end, whereas we use an e-commerce system to manage it on the front end for the customers. And then we have a customer service manager who sits in the UK, who's amazing, who basically just looks at the orders, judges what kind of product it is, and then distributes it to the team that's taking care of it, right? Because by now, we're in the US, the UK, the Philippines, and India. So he takes care of all of that. Then we use Dropbox. Dropbox is probably one of the most invaluable tools that, it's just amazing, isn't it? Like it has the 10 times history or infinite history if you pay more for it. If somebody was to delete a file, access levels, the whole lot. It's just amazing. And then we use, for a lot of stuff, we use Trello to manage orders, because you can, Trello has actually got a very comprehensive API that you can tie into. And then for projects outside of fulfillment, so for actual consultancy jobs, etc., we use Basecamp, which personally, I'm not the biggest of fans of, but it's the best of a bad bunch, just like PayPal is.
Right.
Yeah. So to begin with, we started off with that really basic website, which caused us a lot of issues. And then for some reason that till this very day is unknown to us, we decided to go with OpenCart as our e-commerce system, which worked great to begin with when we had no features and it was very simple. And then as we tried to add features, it turned out how painful it was and how few developers actually knew how to deal with it. So we sort of struggled on with OpenCart for some time, and actually end of last year, right at the end, we relaunched our site based on WooCommerce, which is great because it's so much more customizable, and you can really, really build features for it, which was so much harder with OpenCart. So the systemization is something that more came out of dire requirement than actual strategic planning. It was more the case of, okay, we're doing almost 1 million words a month. How can we format this so that we don't lose a bunch of customers, due to bad customer service because we're losing pieces of content or forgetting orders or whatever. So honestly, we just started using different tools. We tried different tools out. It was a painful process and sometimes things failed. But I think that the thing that really helped us out with this was the fact that we are very, very ethical when it comes to our customers. And so if we mess up, most of the time we will be the first to contact, right? So if I can see that an order is delayed, I'll do my best to note it and contact the customer, either myself or our order manager will, and contact them and be proactive, because the majority of the time they're completely fine with it, right? Things happen. So our customer service has really, really paid off for us. Having somebody dedicated to it who, is a native English speaker, who understands the industry somewhat, that's really, really paid off for us.
Uh-huh. And so, yeah, it's interesting to hear how your business took off there. I mean, it sounds like it's just started with guerrilla marketing, jumping inside these SEO-specific Facebook groups, letting people know you had a service going. It blew up, and then the scramble was on to outsource, hire your team, and kind of get some systemization in order. And so
absolutely,
it's kind of that imperfect action. Just go out there, make things happen. It's the internet, and there's no blueprint really for it. And
yeah,
and I mean,
well, and just
sorry. Oh no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of those things where a lot of people fail. We, rather than writing those articles themselves, they then just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to refund you your order because my team is just not available to do this." Where I would literally then I'll sit down till 4:00 and make sure that the customer gets their order. It's no skin off my nose. It's my business. It's paying my wages. The other thing with that, though, was the fact that from day one, we reinvested 95% of what we were making. Everything that we could, we just put it right back in to hire more staff, more infrastructure going, and those kind of things. Because, there's something that has been really bothering me for some time, which is a lot of people think that outsourcing costs you a lot of money, and think that using other people's services costs you a lot of money. Because obviously you can do all this stuff yourself, right? You can write content, you can create citations. Well, my question to that is, how can you afford not to outsource? If I tried to do half of the things that I require to run my business, I would be bankrupt tomorrow. Because, my time has to be dedicated towards growing the business and dealing with customers and helping people out and posting good content and doing all of these things. But if I sit there and I try to build 200 citations out, it's a no-brainer. A lot of people who do consultancy, for instance, in this industry, they rate themselves very highly, and I respect that, and they want to charge, let's say, $250 for an hour, or $300 or $500 or whatever. So let's say that I rate myself very, very low-key, and I say that my time is worth about $50 for an hour. So if it takes me a whole day to build 200 citations that PBN Butler charges $150 for, I've just made a huge loss in my business, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people don't see. In those 8 hours that it takes you to create this product or whatever, you could have gone out and you could have gotten 3 more clients. You could have made some phone calls. You could have checked up on people and seen if you can upsell to them, right? And I'm not saying don't learn your craft. The first thing we always do is learn the product ourselves, because otherwise, how are you going to talk about it? How are you going to deliver it? How are you going to make sure that your staff is not making mistakes? But at the end of the day, if you're trying to scale, there's no other way than to work with partners.
Uh-huh. Yep, and that I think that's interesting too, because with your background, I know you started with working for that Flash company, and you're account manager at kind of another internet marketing company, and you had your security business going. And what is your feedback now, kind of looking back? Do you think it was very strategic for you to have partnered with your buddy who had all that affiliate marketing expertise, and did that really help propel, not just you, but together both of you guys growing PBN Butler to, basically I'd like to call it a household name amongst, within the SEO industry today.
That's very kind. I honestly, I cannot say this enough. At the end of the day, I am very much projected as the face of the brand, But I couldn't have done it without Luke. I mean, he is the person that does all the testing, that runs the projects in the background, that comes up with new products. And, I build ideas and I build business plans and I help grow our business. But at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't know half of what I know today without Luke. The difference is that we're two really different people, and that's the amazing thing. He's a technical person. He's the person that will sit in the dark room in front of the 3 displays, working till 4 a.m., trying to figure out that bug in that piece of script. Whereas I'm the guy going outside shouting about how great we are and that we've already fixed the problem and, we're good to go. And so, the great thing is that we don't really cross over that much. And so there's no possibility of any friction, which is really nice. I think that a lot of the time, and I've recently actually done a series of interviews with online entrepreneurs that have launched huge businesses themselves. And one of the things that I found while speaking to them is that every single one of them that had a partner had realized right in the beginning that there is no way that you can build up a huge business if everybody does everything. You need division of labor or you're going to fail. Because if it's that thing of saying, too many chefs ruin the stew or whatever the English saying is that.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's really a beautiful thing that my professional past was completely unplanned. I had to leave Germany and I found a job and, I just did things that I thought I'd enjoy and I'd learn stuff at. But at the same time, I always did things with 110% of energy and wanting to do it. And I think that's something that very much translates into the end product. The fact that even today, where we have a customer service manager and where we have all the staff around the world, if you message me on Facebook and you have a question about the product, I don't tell you to email our customer support. I answer you, I jump on a call with you, I do whatever I can because I'm so passionate about what we do. And I think that at the end of the day, if you can get that passionate about anything, just keep doing it.
Right. And that's interesting that you talk about the division of labor, how you guys complement each other there. In the SEO industry, it seems like a lot of guys, everybody seems to start off solo, and at some point or another, then they may or may not partner up. And the other thing is, it kind of like you alluded to earlier, people really have trouble outsourcing. That hiring that first person seems to be, the biggest. People are like, how do I hire? How do I interview? What tasks do I give them? And as you mentioned, it's massive for scaling your time and so forth. And I think you just said when we were chatting earlier, you sat down with 100 potential candidates there in India?
Yeah, 20 actually, and we hired 5.
So that's just incredible.
Yeah. Which is actually a great ratio. I have it on good authority that Microsoft in India goes through 100 to hire 1. So yeah. But here's the thing, it's I think that doing business is pretty scary to a lot of people. It's your livelihood. It doesn't matter what kind of industry you're in. But I also find that very few people go into online marketing because they intended to go into online marketing. I think that there are a lot of people that, if they're honest with themselves, that wanted to be an engineer or an architect or, somebody who owns a physical store or whatever, who then found themselves at a crossroads where they came across something that sounded great, like a success story or something, and then made the decision, hey, you know what, this looks great. I can make my own hours, which is wrong. I can just work for myself, which is most of the time wrong. And I make loads of money, which for the majority of people is wrong because they don't stick with it for long enough. They don't work, in loss for other word, hard enough at it. It's and I think that that's one of the problems, that when you then try to scale, it's very difficult to find somebody who has previous experience that you can hire, that you can afford to hire. especially if you try to hire out in India or the Philippines. The majority of people will tell you that they have experience in what you're asking them. But that's because they've been taught from day one to never say no. You know, it's just like you'll just learn it on the job, right? And that's great, but that you know, that really limits you. And so I get a lot of people who talk to me saying, you know, hey, John, I know that you have like 15 people in the Philippines, you have a bunch of people in India. How do you hire these guys and how do you keep them? Because I hire them and then I find out that they don't actually know what to do, or they just disappear. And, you know, the first thing for us is that we don't hire virtual assistants. We put people in offices, and every office that we have has got somebody whose sole dedication is to look after the people in the office. You know, it's that person should know when somebody is ill. That person should know when somebody's getting married. That person and the best part is it's still Asia. You know, it's starting to become more expensive, but it's not that expensive. And if you can't afford, you know, that $500 or $1,000 a month to hire somebody to nanny these people, then get another client. You know, it's not that difficult. You know, just get another client. Go out and get another client. And that is coming back to step one of creating your business. If you want to become a marketing business, and let's say you've studied all these marketing methods and you're pretty confident that you can do something for your client, let's say in local marketing. So many people say, how do I get my first client? I need a referral, or I need to show amazing results. Right, okay, that might be true to some extent, but actually, what is a referral? It's a connection between you and another person. Well, we all have that, right? Go to your driving instructor, go to your local baker, go to your local corner shop, go to whoever you know that might need a website and say, listen, okay, I want to make your website for free. And then once you see how amazing it is, I'm going to charge you $300 a month to start generating some traffic for it, right? And generating some sales for you and helping you optimize your online presence. Yeah, it's not going to make you rich, obviously, but then you have that result that you can prove. And once you've given them the result and you've explained to them that that was the best friend rate, you turn around to them and you say, listen up, okay, I need more people like you. Imagine a driving instructor, how many people a day that person touches, like not touch, that person connects with, right? So then you say, listen up, I know that your business is doing very well because I've just marketed it, but how about this? I need more people like you, and I want to charge them $1,500, and for every person like that you refer to me, I'll give you $250 a month. Boom, now you've got affiliates without ever having created any form of online business and ranking for SEO Brighton or SEO London or whatever. And all of a sudden you've got people walking around on your behalf that have already paid you to do a service who are going to sell you. And so, you know, it really annoys me when I hear these people who say, I've tried everything. You know, I've placed all these ads, I've spent so much money. Like, why? Why are you wasting your valuable resources when you have a perfectly good network that you've already proved to that you're a decent guy or a decent girl? It blows my mind.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think that kind of touches on something we were talking about earlier, where it's just taking massive imperfect action, just getting out there. There's no blueprint for it, but just getting out there and hustle. Like you said, you're up till 3 or 4 in the morning when things slip through the crack in your systems, and you got to get articles or content over to your customers, and you answer questions on Facebook forum, and you're always hustling, making things happen there. I mean, that's just the name of the game. I think, you know, perhaps some people miss that, and it's not easy, but it's something that has to be done. And you do it, and it naturally gets easier. The first client is always the toughest one to get, and so real quickly here, Jonathan, I thought it would be cool if we touched a little bit more on PBN Butler. You kind of you told us a little bit about some of the different services you guys are offering now, and we know you do content mostly for PBNs and citations and social signals, which are incredible. I love using your social signals package there and so forth. But do you have anything that you can share with us about some of the ways people are using some of your services, maybe more particularly probably with the social signals. Have you noticed people are throwing those or pointing those towards PBNs or money sites, or you have any kind of insight on that for people listening in, so that when they head on over to PBN Butler, they know exactly what to do and how your service is going to help them the most?
Sure. So with social signals, Vincent, I mean, social signals are a great product for both the customer and us because of how versatile they are, right? Because you're essentially forcing social proof onto a page, which if you're doing the more gray or black hat side of things, means that you can validate why a site is doing so well. Because, you shouldn't have a site that's ranking really highly because of, say, you've built yourself in a bit of a dodgy way. Why would it not get any social shares, right? That's really unnatural. So a lot of people use it for that sort of proving that something is natural. The other thing is, a lot of people use it for social validation when they're doing sales, right? If I have we spoke about it earlier, one of those Shopify shops, and the product has a social bar, and that social bar has 0 shares and 0 likes, then when I look at it as a customer, I think, well, this product is probably really unpopular. So, a lot of people use the signals for that, adding the likes to that. Another way of using it that I've seen a lot of marketers do is they validate their content with it, right? So a lot of marketers go, hey, I'm gonna do 20 guest posts, and then my guest posts get shared a lot, and you add some social signals to it, and then all of a sudden you've got people talking to you about how how great your product is, your guest post is, or whatever. That works as well, as long as I wouldn't overdo it. If you are a fairly unknown person and you send 10,000 social signals to your first ever post, then that's going to seem slightly unnatural. Citations, so local business citations, I think should really be in every local marketer's arsenal, because they are such a beautiful way of making money for the marketer. It's almost every business that has been established for a little while has some business listings, and in a lot of cases, those business listings are outdated and are wrong, etc., which causes huge issues when you're trying to rank locally for local keywords or for maps listings, etc., like the snack pack. Now, the thing is that we're actually about to start our auditing product in regards to citations, where essentially what we'll do is we'll look at your customer site and find everywhere that he or she has been listed previously, and then basically put a little tag behind it saying that this listing is correct or is incorrect. And the majority of cases it's incorrect. Actually, we just did an audit on a business that had, I think, 14 locations, and they had something like 760 incorrect listings, right? And that's detrimental. But here's the great thing. You as a marketer can do for, like, I actually don't honestly know how much that product is going to cost, but I'm going to say it's going to cost like $25 or $30, right? And you charge your client at least $100 for that, at least, right? It's a proper audit. And so you do that, and then you get this report that you can that you can really jazz up with your branding, etc., because all our stuff is always white labeled. And if it's not white labeled, we always give you the open files so that you can just remove it, remove the branding. And then you go to your client and say, hey, listen, I've just charged you $100 to get this audit, and you've got 200 citations that are incorrect, and you have no real citations. So I tell you what, I want to charge you $500 to fix the current listings and add a few more. And what I'll do is I'll take off the $100 I charge you for the audit because I'm a nice guy. So now you're charging $400, and we'll probably charge you something like $150 for that, right? So you're literally doing nothing. You're going to your customer and you're saying, hey, look, there's a huge mess here. I want to clean it up for you. And then you go to somebody like us, like PBN Butler, and we'll do it for you for a fraction of the price. And we always have promotions going on as well if you really want to be cheap. So and then going from there, once you've built all these citations, you get a full report of every single listing. And if that's not enough and your customer still hasn't seen the results that they're requiring, we also offer what we call our 3-tiered boosting method, which is where we essentially build 3 tiers of links that have been very, very specifically filtered for this purpose. And what it does is actually very similar to when you juice up a parasite or Web 2.0, it builds authority behind that property, right? And that really helps with your organic listings as well as your snack pack rankings. And so we have all of our products are products that we use day to day in our own campaigns. And if you are a PBN Butler customer that's been with us for a little while, you will know that we also are not afraid to pull a product if we think that there might be a risk with it, right? So at the end of last year, we discovered that one of our best products, which is social signals, that we noticed that the social networks had all of a sudden made drastic changes in the way that they looked at referral traffic. And so we pulled the product, and we pulled the product for a month or even a month and a half. And we did something crazy, like 400 campaigns ourselves, and just kept tracking and seeing, like, what do we need to do to force this site of getting, to get banned from Facebook, for instance, so we could understand what was happening. And a lot of people saying, hey, you're crazy. This is like a 1 in 10,000 chance that one of your customers is going to have a negative effect from that. And that might be right, but it's that one customer whose business I'm going to ruin. Like, imagine if your site all of a sudden gets banned from Facebook and you can't share your URL on Facebook anymore, and it's my fault. That's not something that I want to live with. So with those kind of things, we're extremely ethical, and we'd much rather do that and then improve the product and re-release the product than to make a bunch of money and then feel really bad about it once your business goes downhill. And the other thing that we do, we actually are doing less and less quote unquote black hat products. We do a lot of stuff that can be used for anything. In the content, we have the SEO content that you can use for all sorts of stuff. Then we have the professional content, which is written by writers in the United States. And we have the expert content as well, which is also written in the United States, which is usually if you need like a slightly longer blog post that needs some real research behind it. And our 700-word expert piece of content that's written by somebody who has a master's in English literature costs as much as BlogMutt's normal blog post of 450 words does. So we're very, very much orientated to give the customer margins, and that's what we believe in. At the end of the day, we always say we don't sell SEO. We don't sell products. Essentially, we sell ROI. The more return on investment that you guys make out there, the more money you can spend with us. And, the nicer that we treat you and the more we look after you and the more that we make sure that you do get an ROI, it's a no-brainer. And that's why I really dislike those short-lived products that come onto the market and people rinse them and then they disappear off the face of the earth because their reputation has gotten so bad, because we're really not about that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I love it. That's so cool how much you guys actually care about the customer, how much detail you guys put into all the work, all the services you offer. And what I really love is that you guys actually do, and you guys have your own campaigns, you work with your own clients, use your own products and services on your own campaigns. It's awesome to see somebody who's providing an actual product to customers and simultaneously has clients. You don't see too much of that too often. And so, that just builds a ton of trust and credibility as a customer of yours. And do you feel like that is, for other SEO experts, maybe they're considering offering a product or service of their own. Do you think that gives you an advantage of being able to do both of them because you're still ingrained in the actual client side? You can realize more problems and situations and then realize that should be turned into a product, or because that seems to have some synchronicity there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're working with clients and your products work, and you always start off thinking that a product can only be used in one way, and then you meet that one client who said, wait, why don't we use it in this way? And all of a sudden, you've turned one product into two products, for instance, right? And then you've got a great opportunity to turn that into a blog post that then gets you more sales. And then just like you said, you also sort of see if products are still working, because at the end of the day, there are only so many test cases that you can do, and there's only so much you can do to make those test cases realistic, right? And if you're working with your actual clients and you're very, very careful about it, then you can learn an incredible amount about the products that you're selling and that you're using. But at the same time, we also learn an incredible amount from the people that just buy the products, who are marketers, who are SEOs, who then say, hey, look, I got a result and this is how I used it. That's really, really, really valuable for us, because we can then do more research into that way of using the particular product.
Right. So ask for customer feedback. That's a great point there. And what I want to do here, real quickly here, as we kind of get towards the end and wrap up. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on here. Somebody who's just starting out, they're ready to get into the SEO industry and so forth. And with all your experience, having different roles in different actual companies and your own companies yourself, both web design and on the SEO product side, on the SEO service side, what would you recommend is probably the easiest way for somebody to get their feet wet in this industry? Because there's got to be 50 different ways to monetize SEO. Do you have any insight on what you would kind of recommend yourself as the best way to kind of build your company up before heading maybe a different direction or growing it further?
I think it really depends on whereabouts in life you are yourself. Because it's, again, I'm 100% sure you'll agree with this, but not every method suits every person. A lot of people make their money with writing high-end content, for instance, right? Just to get started and make some return of investment. Because, other than sitting down and your time, you're not going to spend anything. But if you want to really make some money and build up, for instance, a passive income, I think that a great one to start off with is YouTube. Everybody can make a YouTube video, and everybody can find a YouTube niche. And it's like so many things, you have to validate your traffic. So, what I tend to do is I would do a lot of research into what people are actually looking for, and then utilize that to then create a product, essentially, and it doesn't matter if that product is yours or if you can find an affiliate product that matches with it. And that works for really difficult niches as well. I am sure that there's a way that you can make a particular tutorial that nobody has done about web hosting, where you can then put a hosting link in it, even though it's such a competitive niche, right? And you can make money with it. And the same thing is with these e-commerce drop shipping solutions. You have no investments for the drop shipping. And what you can do is you just find a niche. Like if you're any good at writing, for instance, you could go onto BuzzFeed and submit an article that says something along the lines of these 15 Harry Potter gifts that any Potterhead must have, right? And you write that, and what you do is you just sneak in your product. So you just create a simple shop that sells that product that's being drop shipped, and then you just put in a couple of Etsy products, a couple of Amazon affiliate products, and then your own product somewhere in the mix. And then you go to the Harry Potter forums and you go to the Harry Potter Facebook groups and you say, oh my God, I totally love this. Please somebody buy it for me, right? And you do that. And as one of so many people, you probably will be using a fake female Facebook account to do it. And, and it works. That's the crazy thing. It seems scary and it might take a lot of time to begin with, but it works. And a lot of people have built up huge businesses based on that. Look at Gary Vaynerchuk. They started off with a wine store in New York City, and He wouldn't, when YouTube became a thing, he wouldn't stop with his wine library TV and just kept on having these 15-minute videos talking about how great this particular wine is for this particular scenario, and turned his dad's business from, I can't remember, was it a $3 million yearly business to a $60 million business or something like that?
It was something amazing like that, yeah.
Crazy. But the thing is, if you really, really, really look at what Gary Vee does and what a lot of these other massive marketers do, they are businessmen. They are businessmen first. They understand their niche, and then they use that knowledge, that research, that, this guy, he had some knowledge about the online world, but he also had his dad who had something like 20 years worth of experience in running a wine store and knowing what wines Americans in certain areas liked, right? So you need to do that research. And then once you have this knowledge, you can turn it into anything, and you look at any of the great people of our industry or any industry, and you'll probably find that they shouldn't have been as successful as they were. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? This guy was in the Austrian military when he decided to sneak out and take part in a weightlifting competition, in a bodybuilding competition. And the same as with Sylvester Stallone, who can hardly string a sentence together, and yet is one of the most successful Hollywood stars in a long time, right? And it's just those things that these guys didn't ask questions. They just did stuff. And they pushed their business forward, and they pushed their brand forward, and here we are, and they're all multi-millionaires.
I love it. Love your passion, Jonathan, and your insight there, and how you mixed in a couple of famous celebrities there and really, really tied it together. And choosing that niche to get started, that seems like a great starting point. Like you said, YouTube, anybody can shoot a YouTube video, so get into some affiliate marketing, write some content, and roll with the punches. And from there, when the time is right, as you taught us today, make sure you scale and outsource, because your time is most valuable.
Absolutely. Well, and at the end of the day, if affiliate stuff isn't for you, then obviously go into local marketing, like find some local business. Like I said before, we all have a pre-existing network of people who have money. We just need to tap it. And that's one of the biggest downfalls that most people do. They look so far that they are not seeing all the bundles of cash that are stacked right in front of them.
Yep. And your tip about giving the residual referral commission out to your friends and family, or that very first client you land, have them refer new business to you. Very, very simple concept, but it makes sense. It's a snowball effect from there.
Exactly. And
just keep going. And then, of course, when it comes time to fulfill your actual service needs, PBN Butler's there for you. So, Jonathan, really, really appreciate your time, jumping on with us all the way out there from India and making sure your internet connection's all set up. So we greatly appreciate it. I know everybody listening in has learned a ton from you, and I'm sure if they haven't already heard of PBN Butler for some reason, they now know how great of care you take care of all your customers and how much work goes into that. And so really appreciate your time, you joining us here on the Figure SEO Podcast. And for everyone listening, be sure to subscribe. You can download this episode on iTunes or otherwise watch it on the website. And we'll leave a link beneath this video for you guys over to pbnbutler.com. So, Jonathan, thanks again so much for your time, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Okay, we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
All right.